Okay, alright, so I just contacted Sony a couple weeks ago and I asked them for an early access little demo of Spider-Man 2. You know, just so I could give my thoughts out, you know, and share with you guys. And they responded back. I was really excited to play the game because, you know, the trailer, and you know, it's Peter Parker's and his Venom suit now. It's so sick. Alright, let's go ahead and check it out. Alright, let's get this. Wait, what? Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation 2.
Spider-Man 2. Oh boy, was this game the saving grace of the Spider-Man video game market. Alright, so in case you didn't know, you don't understand who the fuck Spider-Man is, back in the 1960s, a little old comic called Amazing Fantasy came out. And it shaped the whole world for superhero comics and really just made this character such a fucking icon, and everybody loved him. I loved him too. Now, Spider-Man is so big, he's got his own franchises. He's got movies, comics, toys, and all kinds of shit in his markets. I mean, they even got Spider-Man peepees. A little unnecessary, but you know what? It is what it is. And then, naturally, companies decided to make video games based off the web slinger. See, back in the day, the Spider-Man video game market was a little dry. I mean, you had Spider-Man on the PlayStation 1 and N64, and I think Dreamcast as well. You had that game, which was pretty cool. It was fun. It was a little clunky, but it was, it had a lot of charm and character to it. Then you have the film/video game adaptation of the Sam Raimi film, Spider-Man, and oh boy, was it something really, really, really niche. I mean, you really had to have been there to enjoy it. But then the sequel came out, Spider-Man 2, and oh boy, was this game a fucking legendary piece of art. You see, when this game came out, it pretty much laid the foundations of what Spider-Man would become when it comes to the video game format. You know, the web slinging, the free roaming, being able to touch the fucking ground. Oh my god, that's so beautiful! Yeah, and Spider-Man PS4 took a lot of influence from this game, so, you know, that says something about the legacy of this game and how fucking great it is. Anyways, so let's just get down to it. Now, as far as the aesthetics and graphics go, yeah, I'll be honest, it doesn't look very good. So this is a PlayStation 2 game, so you might want to cut it a little bit of slack, but yeah, no, there's no excuse. I mean, Spider-Man 1 on PS1, in my opinion, looked better because of the colorful, flashy nature, because it, you know, it was heavily inspired by the comic books and some of the cartoons. However, this game, I guess it tried a little bit to be more like the movies, but it just looked a little bit blocky and a little gross. I mean, a lot of the characters' animations don't even, like, move their mouths whenever they talk to you.
They said they would hurt me if I didn't call you. Please don't hate me.
Especially like random NPCs and shit. I mean, you only really get to see like actual fluid animations and like special cutscenes when they're supposed to be referencing the movie themselves. Yeah, it's a little weird, but the overall design of New York City is not bad either. New York City does feel like it's alive constantly, especially with all the people in the city having issues and troubles. And, you know, there's also a lot of people that will just say awesome things to you, like, hey, way to go, Spidey, and, or, you know, compliment you while you're swinging. And then sometimes you get an asshole that tells you to get a job. Now, with the general gameplay loop and just the gameplay itself, it's pretty self-explanatory, really. I mean, you just swing around the city, help people that need help, gain these things called hero points so you can, get more skills and more web abilities and more mobility with your swinging. You know, swinging in this game feels really good. It feels rewarding, and it just feels just so right. And they really nailed the weight of Spider-Man and how swinging just feels, and moving around the city and just traversing. It just feels so fucking right. It just feels so good. And if there's any real complaints I have when it comes to traversing in this game, it's mostly due to wall climbing and the absolutely weird way you can wall run and just do climbing in general. When you land on a wall, it pretty much stops all of your momentum and just kind of puts you in place on the wall. I mean, you can also do like a web zip ability to like pull yourself up more, but it doesn't keep your momentum. You just kind of take a little bitty short burst of speed, then you have to just go back to it. And also, doing the inputs and trying to continue this momentum is just a big fucking chore, and it just doesn't feel like it's fluid. Like, it doesn't feel fluid. Maybe I've been spoiled on Spider-Man PS4's, like, the way they do the parkour in that game. But in this game, it just doesn't feel right to traverse over buildings and trying to climb up and trying to go around everywhere. It doesn't feel right in this game. The web swinging is fine, it's just climbing is kind of a hassle. I mean, I find myself trying to go around blocks and buildings instead of going above it and trying to take weird shortcuts. Shortcuts that should be there because you're Spider-Man, you should be able to, you know, get over things and not have to go around everything. But I just find myself going around everything. Then you got combat and fighting off bad guys. I mean, fighting enemies in this game is relatively fun. I mean, it's very janky and clunky, but I mean, you know, what the fuck do you expect? It's an old game. You know, and doing combos can be very rewarding, and it does feel fun to just beat up bad guys and web them all up and stuff. However, the web mechanics is pretty bare. They don't really have a lot of, like, web maneuvers aside from pulling them towards you and maybe spinning them around. Maybe you can shoot a web at them, but that's pretty much it. It's mostly just centered around punching, air combos, beating the fuck out of them, and then maybe you can do like a little primary lotus attack. You just drop them on their head. I mean, it's fun. It's very basic and very experimental at the time. You also have a spider sense meter where you can like activate like a flow motion, slow time ability where you can just like do more combos, beat the hell out of the other bad guys. And you know, you also got a spider sense dodge mechanic too. You can do like counter attacks and stuff. It's pretty neat. The combat's not very bad. It's just doing inputs and stuff feels pretty dated, and it just feels kind of hard to actually fight some people. Then you have the gameplay loop itself. You see, what happens is that you're swinging around the world, then somebody's in trouble. You go to them, ask them what's going on, and then they say one of a certain amount of options happens that the game has. You see, you got car chases, holdups, shootouts. Then you got people that are injured. You got to take them to the ER. And then you also got somebody stuck on the building that needs help. And then you got these random occurrences too, where there's people that are actually, you know, actively in trouble. You can also decide to help them. I really like the idea that the game gives you the option to help people because it does make you feel like an actual superhero. It makes you feel like actual Spider-Man because, you know, you're not helping people out of necessity of the game. You're helping people because you want to help them. It's a really nice way of simulating the Spider-Man experience. And the principles of the game just feel so right, and it just feels so good to do good by New York City. It's just, I don't know, it's just a wonderful experience. Go see what JJ wants. Huh? Okay, Peter, where you going? Peter, where you going, buddy? The office was the left. Peter, what? Peter, stop. Peter, stop. Peter, stop. What? Peter, where the fuck are you going? Okay, it has been like 5 minutes now and he's still walking. Peter, where the fuck are you going? There is no other place here. Peter, if I was J.K. Simmons, I'd fire you too, because you're an asshole. So the overall narrative of the game is essentially supposed to be tied directly with the second Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, including Doc Ock as the villain. But the game's storyline essentially adds 2 more plots in it. So you got 3 different narratives. You got the Doc Ock story that's pretty much tied into the movie. Then you got the Mysterio story, where you're pretty much just like embarrassing Mysterio every time, and he tries to make you a fraud every time, but you just beat him constantly. And then you got the Black Cat story, which is essentially Parker trying not to lay pipe to her sweet, sweet polygonal cheeks. Yeah, they're all pretty wacky, and, you know, if anything, I actually prefer the Mysterio story the most, aside from one mission. Anyway, so let's just get down to them. Honestly, I think the Black Cat story is kind of lame. I mean, for the most part, you're really just chasing her over and over again, and she's just, like, shaking her ass at you, just trying so hard to get Parker to lay some pipe. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, you do get a boss fight with Shocker, which is cool, I guess, but overall, it's alright. And then you have the Mysterio challenges, where Mysterio essentially challenges you to these games to try to prove that you're a faker. You know, you gotta throw some criminals into some holes. Then you gotta do an obstacle course, which is not bad. Then you gotta save the opera or some shit from these alien invaders that he made, I guess. And then afterwards, you gotta go save the Statue of Liberty. And I gotta say, this fucking mission sucked major ass. So, okay, so pretty much, Spider-Man cannot swing over the water without these big, tall little UFO things that, you can web onto. And, it took me a while to get through it. The web detection, I'm gonna call it web detection because that's the only thing I can fucking describe it as, is very ass sometimes, and you have to really, you gotta really hold yourself up there and push yourself up to the highest part so you can actually hit the web detection, so the webs can hit it, and then you can keep going. Fuck up ever so slightly, you gotta go all the way back from the beginning. Then when you actually make it to the Statue of Liberty, you have to swing around and try to get these fucking orbs. You have to punch these orbs, but it's really weird and awkward because you're essentially just swinging and hoping to God you can get over close enough to them. So you're pretty much just swinging endlessly, hoping you can get close enough to the orb to punch it. I mean, you can just, get somewhere near it and just punch aimlessly, and sometimes it'll just pull you right into the orb so you can get that nice, sweet punch on it. But it's just, I will say that the background music's pretty cool. It reminds me of Destroy All Humans. You go into this weird apartment, go down to his weird basement, and you have to do this little circus fun house where you fight little weird warped out clones that pop out of the mirrors. You gotta destroy that, then you have to fight these little jack-in-the-box guys, or these little clowns with knives, and then you just leave. That's it? Fuck it then. I hope we get some kind of climactic ending to this whole story. We'll see what happens. And then you have the Doc Ock story, which essentially is just the Spider-Man 2 movie plot, which is, it's not bad. I mean, it's definitely it's definitely just retelling the plot of the movie. So there's that. You get to fight Doc Ock on the train, then fight him in his little laboratory in this weird shipment area, It's alright, I guess. The boss fights in this game are a little bit too lengthy, and I think that the hit detection and just trying to attack them is just a pain in the ass, and I'm just not a big fan of it, personally. Once you save Mary Jane and defeat Doc Ock and everything's all hunky-dory, you finish off this story, roll the credits, everything's done, and you think you're done, right? You think you're done with everything. Then all of a sudden, some random crime happens. The Speedy Market's being robbed. Then you see Mysterio trying to rob the fucking convenience store. Okay, that is just so silly to me. Mysterio is supposed to be a big supervillain, trying to be some kind of some maniacal villain. Then he decides to try to rob a fucking convenience store. The final climactic boss fight happens. He gets 3 health bars. He's all powered up and charged up. Oh boy, oh man, all right, he seems pretty strong now. He's not fucking around. All right, I gotta really charge up this punch for him. Oh, okay, well that's it. All right, well that's silly. Looks like he's done. Anyways, so the overall narrative structure of this game is essentially multiple different stories interconnecting with each other in some ways. And sometimes they're good, sometimes they're kind of pace breakers and they kind of just get annoying, especially with the Black Cat stories where pretty much all you're doing is just chasing her. I mean, you got to fight some military people too, but I don't know, it's just really, this is also one of the first games in general that really did this, aside from games like Grand Theft Auto. You had a sandbox with a very big world and characters that felt lively, especially with how video games operate nowadays with single player story modes, having multiple side quests and having an overall narrative you have to push through just to continue and grow your character throughout gameplay. So I think this game was very influential, not just with Spider-Man, but with other games themselves too. This game really did try to do different things and really fucked around and found out. So yeah, the story was okay.
So as for a Spider-Man simulator, I mean, there you go. But talking about Spider-Man though, it reminds me of a time when I was a kid. I really wanted to be Spider-Man so bad. He was my hero, he was my inspiration. And then this one time I took a spider and put it in the microwave, and then it bit me afterwards. And it turns out it survived it, strangely enough. And then I got took to the hospital. And yeah, my mom did not like that hospital bill. But on the bright side though, the doctor said I'm pretty much immune to all spider venom, so.
He doesn't want to be famous? I'll make him infamous. Infamous.